build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Well, they gave me ball, but I can see between to a dusty yard and a long gone green. They call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I dry my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Longbangers. I'm Matty. This is episode 101. Let's see who we've got tonight. Right, first of all, we'll start with John. John, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I've got a wee funny story to tell you. So obviously my appearances have been sporadic in recent weeks because the wife's given birth. And tonight we gave the wee one, the baby, not the missus, a bath for the first time. And as I was kind of putting her over into the bath, wee in shat in my hand.
Amazing. You sure it's no Brian's babe?
Well, questions have to be asked.
Hey, so I think you washed your hands before you came on.
Yes. Aye. Between COVID and shite, I'm well sanitised.
Good. Glad to hear it. We've got Colin tonight as well. Colin, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I've no stories about shit though, but I'm all right.
Decent. It's not.
I had a wee one. No, I was going to say I had a wee one. One of my daughters did shit up the wall when she was wee. When I was changing her nappy. I'm sure you've got that to look forward to, John.
Lovely. Can't wait.
Sophie did that the first day we got her home, pretty much. You know, where you lift her legs up to wipe the bum.
That's what happened.
Like that, you get to get out of the way kind of quickly.
We called her Spud for ages.
Spud.
Spud.
And right, we're also got a very special guest on tonight as well, Cliff Pike from off of Hibs TV commentary. Cliff, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, Matty. Yourself? Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on. So, because it's the close season, what's the correct terminology for where we are just now? Off season, close season. It's no pre-season yet, is it? Because they'll not come back.
Close season. Off season is off season if you're in the States, but close season here, I think, is good enough.
I've been tripping myself up with that as I'm trying to kind of work out where we are. Right, so close season. So while we've no football proper to talk about until the Euros start, I suppose, we're going to do a series of top fives, which we mentioned to folk in the last couple of episodes to kind of give you an idea. So Cliff, you've come on to kind of run through your top five commentary games.
Yes.
Which I'm fascinated to hear the list. So I suppose we might as well just get right into it. It's your number five. What have you got there?
Well, it's really top four commentary games plus the number one game, and nobody will need to guess which one that is, obviously. We'll leave that one to later. Number five, I went for the game between Hibs and Aberdeen in the Betfred Cup 2015, September 2015. The game where Dominique Malonga ran half the length of the pitch, took on half the Aberdeen team, left them trailing in his wake, and scored a terrific goal to put us through with a 2-0 win. What everybody forgets about that game is, as good a goal as Dominique Malonga scored, the one that Jason Cummings scored about 4 minutes before it was an absolute perler as well. I think you remember it, the ball got sort of played into the box, Aberdeen defender nodded it right up in the air, and it came down on the edge of the box. Jason had his back to goal. He brought it down on his chest, swiveled on the edge of the box and pinged it with a left peg right in the bottom corner of the net. Way off he went, sliding along the turf with the rest of the lads. That was an absolute beezer of a goal as well. But, nobody, like he says about Stokesy in the cup final, nobody says Cummings plays Stokes in, it's like Henderson delivered. Nobody remembers that the phrase Cummings plays Stokesy in. But again, he's just one of these lads. He's just unlucky, absolute brammer of a goal, but nobody remembers it for the one that Dominique Malonga scored that night.
That's a fair point as well, because when you said it, I started thinking about what the goal was like, and I had a vague recollection of it being from outside the box, but I wouldn't have been able to pinpoint the scorer or who went in, but I can remember the Malonga goal vividly. So what made you pick that one out as number five, Cliff?
I think that was one where I suddenly started to think, we're on the road back. We'd obviously gone through the relegation in 2014 and been hell the season before. Hearts had got promoted and we were still stuck down in the Championship. But I think we took on a few Premier League sides that season. We were unbeaten against all of them until we played Ross County in the actual cup final itself. And it was one of these games where Aberdeen had gone unbeaten up until that point. We're mid-September by this stage, and Aberdeen were unbeaten, and people were actually talking about them challenging for the title, the Premiership title, you know. And Alan Stubbs got his tactics spot on that night. We restricted Aberdeen to very few chances, and we were very, very quick on the break, hitting forward. You know, we looked like we could score goals, but it took us until 8 minutes from the end to get the opener. But when it did come, it was a beauty. And then, as I say, the second one came 4 minutes later, 5 minutes later. That was just the icing on the cake. And it was, you know, the atmosphere inside the stadium that night was just unbelievable. You know, it's a common theme amongst all the games that I've chosen. The atmosphere in the stadium was just electric. And, you know, the season that we've just had, you realise how important fans are to the game. Because, see, you know, I mean, I've been lucky enough to be in the stadium, but it's just hell. You know, there is no atmosphere in the stadium whatsoever. You know, you can hear every shout on the pitch, every shout from the coaches. You know, it's an eerie kind of feeling. And, you know, hopefully we can get as many fans back in early next season as possible.
Fingers crossed. Colin, what do you remember about that game?
I was at that game with you.
Was this the night with the two boys moaning behind us?
Aye, they left at half time. Talk absolute shite.
They were
And
horrendous.
so I think your old man's sticker or Josh's sticker, I can't remember whose, but Josh was there. I think it must have been your old man's
Must
sticker.
have been.
And they two boys, the abuses that didn't normally sit there, and everybody around you was almost looking about as if to say, who's going to tell them? Who's going to tell them to shut the fuck up? that was the looks, and then they left at half time, and that was that. But I remember when you, Tony Cliff, when you started talking, I was thinking, I mind the Cummins goal, but I couldn't mind. I remember he scored a beauty, but I couldn't remember how he hit it. You know what I mean? I just remember it was a good goal, but it totally overshadowed with the second one, like you say. But aye, they were good. They were good, Aberdeen, at that time. Eh? Like, I'm sure. Did you see they were unbeaten in the league?
I think it was like 9 or 10 games in as well, wasn't it? Wasn't it like just like a couple of games and they were well into the season?
Aye. I was just googling that team there to see who was playing.
15th of September, I think it was. That game was
23rd. I've just googled it. 23rd of September, but they had like Shinnie and Ryan Jack and Niall McGinn. All the Willow Flood, mind he was good at the time. Kenny McLean. Okay, well, I mean that was them probably at their peak. The McInnes.
I think Shinnie went off injured in that game, if I remember rightly, which was good from our point of view because it left him. He wasn't there to kick us up and down the park like he normally did.
He seemed to be able to play against us with total impunity, didn't he? Like he never got the treatment he deserved for the referees. John, what about you? What do you remember about that night?
This is torture. I hope this doesn't happen with the rest of Cliff's top five, but I wasn't there. Just while Cliff was describing, I'd completely forgotten, exactly as Cliff said, I'd completely forgotten that Cummings had scored. So while he was giving us a description there, I was sitting watching it on YouTube and begging for the goal to come up. It's maybe like 3 minutes, 40 seconds of a YouTube video, and Cliff's right, it's an absolute screamer. I don't quite know how Cummings has managed to hit it because it seemed to defy the laws of gravity. He was sort of stepping backwards and he's buried it in the bottom corner. Yeah, don't know how he's managed to generate
the swivel that he actually got to get the shot away was just quality, But as I say, you got to feel sorry for him because, like I say, hardly anybody remembers that one. You say to remember that game against Aberdeen. The one where Dominique Malonga ran half the pitch. But
it's true. The Malonga goal, the one it seems to have gone down in Hibs folklore, hasn't it? There's videos. I think there's even a GIF that you can find on Twitter for it. It pops up every so often, and that was a phenomenal goal as well. But you're right as well, Cliff, about the Premier League opposition and only actually getting beat in the final by Ross County. I think that's often overlooked, like how good that Hibs team was and how good that Hibs team had gone to become. It was just shit that it'd taken a few years of poor management that sent us down there. I don't mean necessarily from the managers themselves, just the way that the club was being run. But at the same time, that sorry spell seems to have propelled us forward a little bit again.
Yep.
What do you remember of the Malonga goal then from a commentator's point of view, Cliff? Because it was one of these ones where he seemed to leave people trailing in his wake despite running in slow motion. It was weird. I don't know how that happens, but that's what it was like.
It was a wee chip ball from John McGinn, who was kind of almost on the edge of our own 18-yard box, and he just chipped it in Big Dom, and he just seemed to have like loads of space in front of him. You know, there was like Aberdeen players to the left and right of him, you know, but there's a gap right in front of him, and he went off into it. And, you know, I always rated Dominique Malonga. He's a very, very skillful player, but nobody would ever say that he's the quickest player in the world, you know. But, you know, he just seemed to get some pace from somewhere, and he left 3-4 Aberdeen players in his wake. You know, I think Shea Logan was one of them. Ash Taylor, I think, was one of the other ones. And he just kind of seemed to jink left, jink right. And you thought, surely one of them's going to get up. Every time one of them seemed to want to challenge him, he just dropped the shoulder and left for dead. And you thought, surely he can't run half the length of the pitch. And then he's in the box and he takes it almost round the goalkeeper, slots it into the net, and just strolls away like sort of thing you do every day of the week. You know, just ran half the length of the pitch, beat half the Aberdeen team, gone round the goalkeeper, rolled it in the net. I'll just go away and take the applause from my adoring supporters, you know, and that was Big Dom for you. You know, he was so laid back he could have fallen over himself. But from my point of view, you know, it was one of these ones just that, you know, Malonga, he's taking one, drops his shoulder, he's in, you know, and he's round the goalkeeper and Malonga finishes it, you know, and that, I remember that was it, you know, it's 2-0, 3 or 4 minutes to go, you're thinking, that's it, we've beaten them, you know, and all the paper talk was how, as we say, Aberdeen had gone unbeaten up till that point. You know, this was their big chance to win the first trophy of the season, and you know, Derek McInnes would be wanting them to go all the way, and you know, we put their gas at a peak, which is it's always nice to do with Aberdeen because you know they're our nemesis at times. You know, there's a number of games you've played against them. You probably name them all. You know, you played them off the park, but you lose the first goal. They sit in tight. They bore the backside off you. Can you break them down? And you end up losing the game 1-0. You know, so that was a nice one. You know, it's one of those ones that 2 cracking goals, fantastic atmosphere in the stadium, and for me, I think it was just the first real signs that Hibs were actually on their way back to where they should be.
That's a good shout. Definitely, you did get a sense for that team roundabout then that good things could happen. So, what about number 4, Cliff? What's your next one?
Number 4, I'm going to go with the Cup semi-final against Dundee United from 2016. Not for the reasons that it was an exciting game to commentate on, because frankly, if you think back to that game, we were absolutely dreadful. We were dreadful. I mean, Dundee United, second half particularly, played us off the park, and without Conrad Logan, you know, who knows what might have happened. But Jason Cummings features again, the Panenka penalty. You know, had he scored that, would the game have turned out the same way? Who knows? We might have gone 1-0 up. Dundee United might have come back in. It might have lost it. Who knows? You know, it's all ifs, buts, and maybes. But I remember him taking that penalty, and you know, there are times as a commentator and as a Hibs supporter as well, I think the same way as you guys. You know, you're thinking, what the is he doing? And I'm thinking, what the, and you know, you guys can scream it out when you're on the terrace and or sitting in your seats and that, what the is he doing? Much as I would love to scream that, Jason Cummings, what are you thinking about? You know, and that's how it comes out, but you're actually, you know, going through your head is, you know, airs. But, you know, I'd say it worked out well, but the second half, it was the Conrad Logan show. 3 or 4 great saves that he made. Extra time was a bit of a non-event. I think both teams were kind of scared to lose it in extra time. But then the penalty shootout was just something else. You know, I mean, that was, as we say, the real Conrad Logan show. You know, I think everybody saw Conrad running out the tunnel and thought, what on earth is this we've got in goals tonight? You know, I mean, I think he'd be the first one to admit he was probably 1.5 stone, maybe a couple of stone over his fighting weight. And you thought to yourself, this is a big risk Stubbs he's taking here, but boy, did it pay off. You know, he saves the first 2 penalties in the penalty shootout. Meantime, you know, our boys, it was John McGinn, Paul Hanlon, Martin Boyle, have all lashed their penalties into the net. You know, absolute screamers. Goalkeepers never, forget the name of the goalkeeper, it was a Japanese goalkeeper Dundee United had playing for them that day. And, you know, our first 3 penalties screamed into the net. Boy never saw them. The net wasn't there, the ball would have ended up back in Edinburgh probably. And then, of course, it's fitting that Mr. Cummings has to step up to score the winning goal to put us into the cup final. And you imagine you're that Dundee United goalkeeper standing there after what he's done in normal time. You're thinking to yourself, surely he's not going to try. And we're all thinking, surely he's not going to try that again. But the boy's got no idea what he's going to do. And Jason steps up and just calmly rolls it into the bottom left-hand corner, runs across to the Hibs fans in the far corner like nothing's ever happened. There you go, boys. That's how to take a penalty. Forget that one in the first half. That was just, but again, the atmosphere was just unbelievable, particularly in the penalty shootout. I think the Hibs fans overall were very nervous because I didn't think we played particularly well. Had we scored the penalty in the first half, it might have settled us down. We might have gone on and won the game quite comfortably, but we didn't. Nervy afternoon, but the penalty shootout made up for it all. Conrad Logan and Jason Cummings coming good. And just the atmosphere, as I say, the Hibs supporters knowing that we're going to Hampden to play Rangers in a cup final.
How is it when you're commentator on a game like this? So the game itself wasn't that great. So how much a challenge is it for you to commentate on a game where the action isn't really doing the talking for you, Cliff?
It's difficult because, I don't think people realise how difficult it actually is. You can only work with what the team are giving you on the pitch. Now, the last season gone by there, everybody can see the games live on screen. So you can't dress it up to be something it isn't. If it isn't exciting, there's very little that myself and Tam can do to make it exciting. And Tam, to his credit, is he calls a spade a spade. He's heart in his sleeve. If the team are playing poorly, he'll tell you they're playing poorly. But you guys can see all that, So, we can only try and describe what's going on in the park. And it's one of the frustrations for us as well, in that we have to commentate for the lowest common denominator, as in, I say that not in a cheeky fashion, but possibly, but our audio subscribers and our visually impaired subscribers, forever getting tweets from people saying, why do you have to tell us Paul Hanlon's got the ball on the edge of his own box when we can see that? I say, yeah, I know you can see it, but Carl McGee, for example, Macker, he can't see it. He can only hear what we're telling him. So you've got to try and tell him where the ball is and be as descriptive as possible from that point of view. And as much as we would love to have had the commentary split, to have a TV commentary and a radio or audio-based commentary, the cost of it just would have been far too much for a whole season. And obviously, when money's tight in a pandemic, it just wasn't possible.
Well, John, the semi-final then, I presume you were at that one.
Aye, I was at that one. You've taken that joke away from me.
What was your memory of it?
I've been scribbling down some notes here, but it was things like Conrad Logan Day. I think Cliff's right, when Logan, let's say, strode out onto the pitch, there was a few years. Like the whole day was it wasn't strange, but I think after the disappointment of the Ross County game, I think there was fewer Hibs fans there than there would have been normally. And my mates and I had a wee bit of a laugh about it, especially after the Cummings penalty. So when Cliff was saying about the commentary, I was going to ask him if he had like an emergency Jason Cummings or an emergency fuck up button on the microphone. Because honestly, if it would be me commentating, I probably would have bashed my own head in with a microphone because I was that angry about it. And then there was others. So going back to Conrad Logan, I think there was maybe 4 or 5 saves. So there was like 2 or 3 one-on-ones. There was the John Rankin. And I think there was another one. I think it was maybe Henri Anier. He's through one-on-one. He saves it, and it goes out. And
Billy Mackay.
Paul Hanlon let one drift over his head. Mackay got in behind him, and
so
Logan made the save, and Hanlon swept it back off the line as it was going behind him.
Yep. And the last one, and the one where we coined the phrase "this is how it happens," was Henri Anier going through, and Logan, just because he'd played for Hibs for that briefest of spells, and Logan saved it. And I think with every passing save that Logan had, there just seemed to be that sense of belief and confidence that was building amongst the support. And it didn't culminate, but there was a really telling moment when I was watching the footage back when the weak cross came in following Logan parrying that save, and there was a standing ovation for the Hibs support in the 78th minute or something. And then obviously you've got the penalties after that. And my abiding memory from that is the first 2 penalties that Logan saves, I'm pretty sure that he's shouting at the 2 players that step up to take them. Because I think it was Blair Spittle. He's shouting, Spittle, Spittle, oi, Spittle, or words to that effect. And I think it was the 3rd penalty that Dundee United scored. Whoever it was that scored it was giving Logan the daggers as if to say, you're not going to put me off. But I think, so just like that belief that Hibs had that day, like you could just sense it growing. I think that fed into the final itself. Shit, I've lost my train of thought. The belief that and the belief that Conrad Logan had in himself, because obviously, like, he'd spent a good chunk of time out of football, and when we had the chat with Liam Fontaine about it, because I think we had a wee bit of, not a laugh at it, but we were talking about players and how they were replaced, and the whole the shenanigans over the contact lens that saw Oxley miss out, and Otso Virtanen, how he never got the game. I think Logan's belief kind of propelled Hibs forward as well. Like, he had a point to prove, from having, spent a bit of time out, and Liam Fontaine had said, you might have seen, like, the guy that was overweight stepping onto the pitch, but we got to see what he was capable of in training, and we got to see exactly what he was capable of during that game. Like, he had an absolutely phenomenal performance that, I don't know, if we had a keeper have a better performance at Hampden since it, maybe the other one that I think of is Daniel Anderson back against Rangers in the League Cup semi.
Yeah,
back a bit high.
So, that's just some of my memories.
You think about Conrad. What, he only played something like 14 or 15 games for Hibs all told, but no Hibs fan will ever forget him. That's for sure.
No,
because I remember, because he played that cup game, and then I think the following league game, I think Mark Oxley was in goals, but then there was it the game against Rangers? I think the league game against Rangers, Mark Oxley basically threw one in the back of his own net. He looked a bit lazy with it, and I think Conrad Logan was the keeper from then on in. The playoff games against Falkirk, culminating obviously in the Scottish Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can't remember if it was you that I text Colin, but I remember Conrad Logan coming out and being delighted that I finally had a footballer's physique.
It was probably, I was going to say, I wasn't at the game, I watched it on telly. You were in the front row, weren't you?
You text me to say that was.
What I remember is that kind of conversation, and my brother-in-law Charlie, who I think by Charlie Walker, he was a goalie in his days. But it was about 15 stone ago. But I mind him texting me saying, "Still got a chance to get a game." Because he was, and that was it though, as you said. That was what I remember, John. Then he made these saves, and it was save after save after save. And thinking, he's not letting anything in today. And then you seen the crowd. I still remember. I was watching in the house, as I say, but the crowd went mental at one point. I didn't realise it was as late on as 78 minutes. But there was a point where everybody just stood up and thought, "We're not getting beat. He can't let any in." But it must be as close to a 10 out of 10 performance as you can get.
He's going to be one of those rare footballers that ends up in L'Equipe magazine alongside Frank Sosie.
L'Equipe. I got goosebumps when you talk about the crowd standing up there, Colin. I remember it vividly, like it was. Like it was yesterday. It was superb. What was it like immediately after the game, Cliff? So you come, the commentary is finished, and I imagine like the rest of the house, you're buzzing after that as well. Were you on interview duties after the game or anything like that?
I was, actually. I spoke to Big Con. My immediate thought was, oh God, no, another Scottish Cup final to commentate on. Our record in Scottish Cup finals wasn't particularly good up until that point. But, I went down and had a chat with Big Conrad after the game, and just as down to earth as you could possibly come. Look, just doing my job. That's what I'm there to do. I'm there to make saves. I made the saves on another day. They might have gone in. Today was my day. We'll look forward to the final and that sort of stuff. No airs or graces about him whatsoever. Just as down to earth a guy as you could possibly meet, and very unassuming. Very, very humble. Not taking any credit for it whatsoever. The guys that scored the penalties were every bit as important as him saving them, as far as he was. I can save them, but if the other boys don't score them, then me saving them counts for nothing. So give the other boys that scored the penalties some credit as well. It was a good team effort. And you sort of thought to yourself, decent lad, he'll do for me.
Aye, that's good. I mean, with the penalties, Martin Boyle, he hit his high into the net, absolutely smashed it. We were thinking, what a way to hit a penalty. And I'm sure he said after it he was aiming low,
Yeah,
It was.
aye, must hit it.
which is maybe not that great a penalty, but it looked good
Paul,
anyway.
Paul Hanlon as well. I think Paul Hanlon absolutely lashed his one in it as well.
That was a brilliant penalty, absolutely brilliant, right in the corner.
McGinn's as well, I think, was powerfully struck. So 3 great penalties, and Conrad having saved the first 2. You think to yourself, we're going to have to spectacularly mess this up now. But fortunately we didn't. Jason stepped up with the 4th one, and calm as you like, rolls into the bottom corner. Who cares about the one in the first half? That's the one.
I think you're right, Cliff. That was the goal. He did just stand still for that one because I think he thought, "Is he going to do it again?" And he just sort of stood there in the middle.
Nobody in the stadium had any idea what he was going to do. You've seen what he's tried in the first half, and you're thinking, he could do anything. Who knows? He could try and lash it high into the left, low into the right, hammer it straight down the middle in the hope that the goalkeeper moves. And if he'd done that, the keeper would have saved it because he stood, as you say, Colin, stock still on his line. But he just strolled up, rolled it calm as you like into the bottom corner. Didn't give a damn about what happened in the first half. That's over and done with. History will show that I was the boy that scored the penalty that put us in the final.
That almost suggests like you're saying that Jason
It was
Cummings was playing the long game.
It was almost made for him, wasn't it?
Aye, it definitely was.
But it was almost made for him. You sort of thought to yourself, right, this penalty to win. Oh, look who's taking it. There you go. And all of a sudden, 0 to hero in 1 penalty. That was Jason.
Football's all about, isn't it? Yeah.
Mad as a dozen boxes of frogs.
What about then game number 3 for you, Cliff?
Game number 3 was the game against Brøndby in Brøndby. Again, to go across there as a championship side and take on a side of that quality and beat them on their own patch on the night, albeit that unfortunately that one we lost on penalties. Again, the band of Hibs supporters behind the goal when David Gray scored, you would have thought there was 10,000 of them rather than 1,000 or so of them. It was just the noise that they made and the support they gave the team the whole night was just incredible. And the team that night, again, it was another one of these games that just emphasised for you, we are definitely on the way back here. Yeah. The first game at Easter Road, I think it was John had mentioned Otso Virtanen, and he'd made a mistake in the first leg, and Ross Laidlaw played in the second leg, and Ross Laidlaw was absolutely outstanding. If he could have saved penalty kicks, he would have been even more outstanding, but just never got near any of them. The Brøndby penalty takers were absolutely superb, and we missed our first one through John McGinn, who, credit to him, stepped up to take it, despite the fact that I think he was blowing out his backside by that point in time. He could barely walk up to take the penalty. Tried to place it, didn't get it right. Keeper saved it. I think given his chance again, he would have put his laces through it and just gone for it. But thereafter, every penalty went in, and we went out 5-3 on penalties. But, to go across there as a championship side, remember, we were still a championship side at the time, take on a side that had a good pedigree in Europe, decent squad, and beat them, it was unbelievable, and just again to be privileged enough to actually go on a European trip as part of the team or the part of the squad, the travelling party. It was just some of the things that you see behind the scenes, the training sessions and all that kind of stuff, the way these games are organised, how UEFA get involved in the organisation and what goes on at the stadiums before the games, after the games, and then having to jump in the bus and get back to the airport to get your flight back before it goes without you and all these kinds of things. It was a real privilege to be there. But, just the one thing that will stand out for me that night is the Hibs support. Just absolutely unbelievable. They've been unbelievable in Copenhagen, in the town, the whole period before the game, as ever, the Scots go abroad and we just know how to party. There's no nonsense, there's no violence, it's all good humour, it's all good natured. The Danish people were getting involved with it. One boy had a set of bagpipes, the Danish boy was trying to play the bagpipes, couldn't play the bagpipe. No, I'm saying that the boy that had the bagpipes could play them either. But just all these kinds of things, and it's just the camaraderie amongst the Hibs support and the Danish people was just superb from start to finish. I think, you know, we came home with our reputation massively enhanced as a result of that game. You know, the fans could not have been any better that night. Just the atmosphere, as I say, from 1,000, 1,500 of them in the stadium behind the goal, the noise they made from start to finish was just unbelievable.
What was it like going to, when you talk about travelling with the team, did you have a sense that the team fancied it? That they you know, they knew that they could give Bromby a game?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there was a lot of the pressure off them having lost the home leg 1-0. I think they kind of thought, you know, this is a free hit here. You know, we'll go across, we'll just enjoy it. You know, it's a European game. We're in the Championship. We get beat, nobody's going to really point the finger at us. You know, we're up against a good side here. You know, let's go across and just knock the ball about, see what happens. I think they went into the game with no pressure on them whatsoever. I think that's what Neil Lennon had kind of impressed upon them. You know, we go into this game 1-0 down, lost the home leg, you know, none to lose. Let's go, let's enjoy it, let's have a wee go at them. I don't think Brondby actually were prepared for what they got that night. You know, I think they thought, you know, we've done the hard work at Easter Road, we'll just knock the ball, keep possession here, make them run about, but didn't work out that way. Probably worked the other way. I mean, we didn't create many chances in the game, neither did they, in fairness, but, you know, the one that we did, David Gray took it superbly. You know, it was one of these kind of leaning back, kind of hooked his leg round it and scooped the ball round the goalkeeper into the corner of the net. And just as I say, the explosion of noise after that was just unbelievable. And I think that the team were tiring towards the end of the 90 minutes, and Brondby were obviously trying to throw the kitchen sink at us to avoid going to extra time. But the fans got us into extra time. Again, I think in extra time, it was almost a case of neither team wanted to lose it in extra time. You know, we'll settle for it. You often find that in these types of games, that the teams will just settle for the draw and take it to penalties. And again, you know, that one, unfortunately, unlike the Dundee United semi-final we talked about prior to this one, it went against us. But, you know, could have been a different result on the night, you know, and I think the boys did themselves proud that night. The fans did themselves proud. You know, one of our better European nights.
Definitely. John, were you there?
No.
I've not done a European trip. It's like on my bucket list. I've just never either been in a position to be able to go when it's come up or been able to get the time off work or whatever. So
I got married. I got married in April 2016 and was on honeymoon in Italy when the game was taking place. Just again, while Cliff was describing what was going on, I was trying to work out why it was that I wasn't there. So scrolling through my phone and found I was in Italy.
You could have got a taxi.
Aye, I suppose.
Colin, I know you weren't there. You've not been away for European night either, eh? That's something we should arrange then. A Longbangers tour for next season.
Listen, we had a really successful run with the mugs, but I don't think we're quite ready to make that leap to chartering flights.
I wasn't talking about chartering the flights, just getting ourselves there would do.
Just imagine getting Longbangers logo on the 747.
You were around Hibs.net at the time, Matty, when Stuart Crowder tried to charter a flight for the game against the AEK Athens. Or you're not around at the time?
Yeah, so
he tried to charter a flight. It's just unbelievable, the hassles and the cost of doing it. But I think he would have probably filled it if he'd been able to do so. But we all know what happened with that one prior to the game. You know, it just put the kibosh on the whole thing.
Was that the best European trip you'd been on, Cliff? With Hibs?
Hard to say. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be out in the Ukraine as well when we played the Dnipro, and that, unlike Brondby, that one was just bizarre. You know, this Ukraine is just a terrific country, but it's like none of the people seem to work. You know, when you're out and about, like there's loads of people out in the streets and that, and all the women look like catwalk models, and all the blokes look like motor mechanics. No offence to motor mechanics, but like sort of dirty jeans and dirty t-shirts and stuff on. You know, it's like, and we named them the standard abouters, because all they seemed to do was like stand about and watch what was going on. And it was quite bizarre, because we went to, decided we were up early one morning and said, we'll get some breakfast. So we went down to McDonald's in Lenin Square, the Scot abroad, McDonald's in the Ukraine. You know, let's not try something local for breakfast. Let's just get, you know, a sausage and egg McMuffin or something like that. So we stroll into McDonald's and the place is empty, but there's loads of people outside it, you know, and kind of spoke to the guy behind the counter, who spoke quite good English, and sort of said, you know, I'm surprised it's so quiet for breakfast. Oh no, he says, the people here can't afford McDonald's. You know, they just stand outside and look at the rich people coming in. They think the people that can afford McDonald's are rich. You know, so the bulk of the people there, they couldn't actually afford McDonald's. But I mean, I remember that trip more for a guy called Willie Dunn. Willie and I were across together, and we were passing this shop, and they were selling Marlboro cigarettes, and they were selling 200 Marlboro cigarettes for 200 zonks, as we were referring to the currency, because I can't even remember what the Ukrainian currency was. So we were referring to it as zonks. So Willie's like, 200 zonks. He gets his calculator, his phone with his calculator. That's only about £4 for 200 Marlboros. My missus smokes Marlboros. I'm going to get a packet of them. So he goes in and he buys a packet of Marlboros, 200 Marlboros for 200 zonks. And we wander up the road, find a bar, have a few pivos, and we're heading back down the road. And he says, I'm going to go back and get the missus another packet of these Marlboros. As he strolls into the shop, the price has gone up from 200 zonks to 400 zonks in the space of about 2.5 hours. And he's like, they're robbing. No, they can keep them. I think to myself, Willie, it's still only like about £6-7 or something for 200 Marlboros, mate. You know, no, they can bloody keep them. There's no danger of it. That's just profiteering. Wow. So his missus only got the 200 Marlboros rather than the 400 he might have got, because he refused to pay the vastly inflated price, which would have cost him all of about another couple of quid. Bizarre place, absolutely bizarre place.
Okay, let's go on to game number 2. So, penultimate one.
Right, game number 2 comes from, surprisingly enough, the same Scottish Cup run, and it would be the game at Tynecastle, where we drew 2-2. I've been fortunate enough to commentate on a few wins at Tynecastle, but none of them were anywhere as close to being as enjoyable as that 2-2 draw. You know, we're obviously in the old main stand, as it was at Tynecastle, and we've been put across at the far end of the commentary position with a pillar in front of us, so we could barely see the goal at the McLeod Street end. And you know, again, I thought we played pretty well in that game. If you looked at the statistics, we had something like 56% of the possession to their 44. We had something like 15 shots at goal to their 8. We had something like 7 on target to their 3. And at half time, they were 2-0 up. And of course, just before half time, Sam Nicholson's scored, and he's gone gesturing to the Hibs support with his dingly danglies and all that kind of stuff, thinking, you know, that's it, you boys are out. There's another year added onto your Scottish Cup hoodoo. And I must admit, at half time, I thought it's going to be you know, there is. I'm not confident we can pull this back. And I think most Hibs supporters are being honest with themselves. They were probably thinking the same thing. You know, 2-0 down at Tynecastle, 45 minutes to play. You know, it's going to be a long way back. But of course, 10 minutes to go, Jason Cummings loops a big header over Neil Alexander. And you kind of thought to yourself, just the way that Jason ran up to the Hearts support in the main stand, turning round, pointing at the name on the back of the shirt. You know, like, Jason, we're still a goal behind here, mate. You know, taking that a wee bit too far, you know. But I think that gave the whole team a lift again. And, you know, when Paul Hanlon scored the equaliser, you know, sitting in the main stand at Tynecastle, surrounded by Hearts supporters, and just going absolutely, myself and Conor Rafferty going absolutely tonto, Hanlon having equalised, If they could have got to us, they probably would have killed us. If they had things they could have thrown at us, they probably would have thrown at us to try and kill us. But, that was just fantastic, But what you forget is that having got it back to 2-2, Gunnarsson then sliced one off his own crossbar, Nicholas Gunnarsson, and Kevin Thompson cleared one off the line from Blaise Augustin. So having got back to 2-2 in the last 30 seconds of the game, we could have still lost it, which would have been horrendous after the. I think back to that one and I think, imagine if Gunnarsson had scored an OG, or imagine if Thompson hadn't managed to clear that one off the line and they'd then gone and won the game 3-2. Imagine the stick we would have taken for what we'd given them like 30 seconds beforehand. But it all worked out well. Robbie Nielsen got his money spinning replay. He beat them in that. And, the rest is history. The day the Hearts songbook was ripped up almost,
Aye.
I think half the songbook got ripped up that day. The rest of it got ripped up at Hampden Park on the 21st of May.
John, what's your memories?
Unbelievable atmosphere again.
You maybe saw me with my head in my hands at the start. So I was there. I was there for all of 75 minutes, and then I left. Thinking, it was a pragmatic decision. I was studying for an exam at the time, and I went, fucking, it was just a horrible day. It was cold, it was wet, the pitch was shit. It was 2 shitty goals that Hearts had scored. I think Stevenson maybe had a wee mistake for the first one. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I thought he maybe went for a header when he could have cleared it. He sort of like stooped for the ball, didn't quite get rid of it.
Yeah.
The second one again, I couldn't quite work out. Like I say, it was cold, it was wet. I think the rain was lashing down as well. I remember getting soaked, and I don't know whether they just play with the sprinklers or they train with the sprinklers on at Tynecastle, but they just seemed to have better control of the ball. They were better suited to those conditions. I don't think I can remember Hibs in my lifetime certainly going to watch Hibs playing at Tynecastle. I don't remember seeing Hibs play well in those conditions. And we were 2-0 down, and after about 75 minutes, I thought, fuck this, like, before they put the barriers up, I'm going to get the train at Haymarket. And I think I was going through the barriers at Haymarket when the notification came through on my brother's phone that Hanlon had equalised and it was going to go to a replay. Obviously, I didn't know any of the other circumstances, with Gunnarsson or with Thompson clearing something off the line. I just thought, brilliant, it's going to a replay. And the reason I had my head in my hands is I will never, ever live this down. One of my mates, Budgie McBee on Twitter, the guy that collects all the Hib strips that's got a bit of coverage recently, he's front and centre with the Paul Hanlon celebrations, if you like, bouncing about at the front of the stand. I could have been there. Instead, I was on my way back to study for an exam that I've never actually put into practice.
Has your brother forgiven you for either taking him with you or choring your phone, whichever way you ended up being able to check?
Aye, no, he's fine. He's fine. Aye. I mean, I wrote something after the Scottish Cup final where I said, like, I had a wee bit of a falling out with Hibs, just a personal one. I thought, this is shit. I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to be one of those people that moans about how shit Hibs are. I'm just going to do something else for a wee while until I get myself involved again. But he was a big reason why I started going back to watch Hibs again. I got a season ticket with him, and it was in section 43 in the stand when I think it was when Pat Fenlon was in charge, and I just haven't looked back ever since. I had a season away, climbed some mountains, and then came back thanks to him.
That's basically the same story arc as the Dark Knight, the Batman films.
It is a wee bit, eh?
It's uncanny. I'm pretty sure that's him disappear for a bit as well. Colin, I can't mind if you were at that game or no.
I was at that game. I got tickets. I made the decision to stay. I went with my eldest. It was the first time at Tynecastle. It was my birthday, actually, 7th of February as well, wasn't it? So it was both their birthdays that weekend. She's the 5th, I'm the 7th, so we got tickets. It was at the height of the loyalty points sort of scandal, and I scraped into one of the categories to be able to get the tickets. So we got the tickets and went. Biggest memory of that game. One of the biggest memories of that game was there was a boy came piling down the stairs when the Nicholson scored, because I was right in line with like where Nicholson was on the edge of the 18-yard box. If you face the goals on the left-hand side, and that's where he was scratching his balls and that. And there was a boy came running down the stairs and fell over the I don't know what it's called. The
gantry.
Vomitorium or whatever it's called.
Let's call it vomitorium just because I like that one.
Aye. that he went over that, and you just heard the thud, and there was just like they had to shut it off, and I thought he must be dead, but he wasn't. He just got apparently he wasn't. But it was a horrible sound. But I didn't think we were going to come back. I think you were net the game, were you? You were texting saying, "We're still on this. We still got a chance." And that, and I'm thinking, can we get to the game and you're 2-0 down, and you're thinking, fucking chance of we coming back into this, despite the fact you're telling me we're playing well. But you know, when you're caught up in it all, and you're thinking, fucking hell, it's another one. That's another year on that. That's going to get a title up the morning and blah blah blah. All of that. But I remember your text coming through saying, "Yeah, we got a goal. We've got a chance." And I'm going, no chance. But I hung about to the end anyway. But once Cummins' goal went, and I think we all started felt that a bit. That we maybe got to do something.
It was almost getting to that point where you thought we need to score in the next minute or two to give ourselves a chance. You know, if we don't score in the next couple of minutes, and then of course Jason does, and it has to be Jason Cummings again against Hearts, doesn't it? You know,
it was one of them. It was a slow motion one. It kind of kicked in over the goal. Like, I was standing behind it. It was a really delayed reaction to the goal, whereas the second goal, everybody was up because I think we all thought McGregor was scoring, and the goalie saved it. Because I think I was up and was, and I was it was like a sort of up and down sort of motion for that one. But it was brilliant. That was a great day. We were bouncing all the way home. I drove a parked round at Murrayfield, and I was driving. I get home quicker from Murrayfield than I do Easter Road. But Mike coming in the house and we're bouncing and that, and the wife's going, "Come down, we've got to play them a replay. We'll probably fucking win the replay." You came up, we're like, "We'll throw it away," and I'm going. That's how the conversations were going. But it was a great day. It was a brilliant game. A brilliant atmosphere.
I couldn't get a ticket for it, so we'd missed out on the tickets, tried to get them, hadn't got them. And Jane had been through in Glasgow. I think she had the weekend away with her mum and my daughter Sophie. So I'd gone to pick them up. And the time we go back to Christopher, which is where my mother-in-law lives, Hearts had just scored. And then we're driving back to Dunfermline. The second goal went in. So we were in time for half time, I think. And then we're sitting down. I just remember bouncing about the living room. Hanlon's goal going, and me and Josh, the girls had gone upstairs. Josh and I were sitting watching on the TV, and Hanlon's goal going, and we're literally where it's like kind of grabbing each other and bouncing about the living room, and there's all sorts of bad language going on about getting dealt to leashed and scaring the neighbours and all the rest of it. It was fantastic.
But you didn't celebrate a goal like that. Like that's the only time you celebrate a goal, kind of like in that way. Like there were bodies everywhere that day, and it was piling. Other than the cup final, you know, you didn't do it other than derbies and big games like that. Last minute in a derby, and how often is it the other way around?
I think myself and Connor were the same. We were the same in the main stand. You know, like just celebrating it. You know, you just in that moment you forget where you are. You know, and it's like you suddenly remember and you think, oh, you know, we're dead now. But you know, listen, if I was going to die, it was a good way to do it.
So, what I'm curious, Cliff, remember Lennon getting sort of hit by the coin at Tynecastle? Had somebody thrown something and hit you, would you have stayed down as long as Neil Lennon did?
No, I think I'd have tried to be hard about it and thought, yeah, is that the best you could do? Chuck a pound coin the next day, you know.
Dodging the pies.
The one thing I would say about that game is that obviously I know a lot of the Hibs support don't hold Kevin Thompson in particularly high esteem. Kevin Thompson not cleared that shot from Augustine off the line in the final seconds of that game. You know, what happened might not have happened. So, well, it wouldn't have happened. So,
and Miguel probably wouldn't have reached it. That was the thing. Because it was Miguel that went off injured, didn't he? Early doors.
So, you know,
he was doing that stretch, I think, for 5 minutes in. Kevin used to do the hamstrings and all that.
He did play a fairly big part in us ultimately winning that trophy. So, all credit to him for that.
Aye, it's good. We've had, I think on the podcast, we've had Marvin Bartlett, Louis Stevenson, who played, I can't remember if Fontaine played in that game, but Fontaine was, and all of them, when we've asked them about it, said that even though we were 2-0 down, they still knew we were playing better than Hartsburg and still fancied the chances of coming back.
Belief was the word that, I want to say belief was the word that Fontaine used, maybe even, I don't know about Stevenson.
But they were
Fontaine
right.
was on the bench, mate. I've just looked that up. Fontaine was on the bench,
Because I remember asking him what the half-time chat was, and Stubbs had said, like, we're playing well, keep doing it, you'll get a chance, and just make sure you take it when it comes, because we're still in the game. And so it panned out. So, Cliff, number one, probably the easiest question you'll ever get asked.
Very much so, yes.
What's your memories of the day, and why have you picked it as number one?
Oh, well, why have I picked it as number one? we don't win the Scottish Cup all that often, as we found out a couple of weeks ago. But that day, you know, I've been supporting Hibs since 1971. My dad took me along when I was a mere sprat of a lad, and nothing will ever surpass that day. You know, I'll never go to a football match again in my life and experience what we all experienced, and none of us will. You know, if you were there that day, you will, and the day afterwards, the Sunday as well, you'll never experience that again. You know, 114 years since we'd won the Scottish Cup, and you know, up against Rangers, to do it against Rangers of all teams, you know, and the manner in which we'd done it, you know, 2-1 down with 10 minutes to go, you know, Andy Halliday thought he'd won the cup, but he hadn't, you know, and Stokesy, just, you knew what quality player Stokesy was, but up to that point in time, he hadn't shown it. Saved it all for that day, and you know, just to be there. And again, it was one of these ones. Normally, when we do commentaries from Hampden, we're in the south stand, and we're across towards the side where our support is. For some reason, that day they put us in front of the Rangers support, so we had all the Rangers corporate supporters behind us, and obviously they'd been spending a fair bit of time drinking on empty heads, you know, before the game and again at half time and what have you. And it was quite amusing, because I know Hibs did a rerun of it, you know, a year or two back. They played the whole game and absolutely everything, you know, not up until full time, but they played everything that happened after full time as well. You know, and I think that was the first time that a lot of people realised the grief that we actually got from the Rangers supporters that were behind us. You know, there's one guy in particular that was just, you know, unbelievably stupid, for want of a better way of putting it. I mean, he's got, you remember the match programme, you know, it's quite a thick book type thing. Absolutely launched that at one of our co-commentators, Keith Reid, hit Keith's headphones and took them right off his head, you know. If it had hit him a bit slightly further to the left or the right, would have probably done a bit of damage to him, you know. But fortunately, his headphones went flying across the table when his mate was trying to calm him down, and Connor was trying to calm him down, and all this time I'm trying to keep talking and describe for people what's going on the pitch, you know. And what was going on the pitch was absolute bedlam at that point in time. You know, there was like Hibs supporters celebrating at one end, there's Rangers supporters running on from the other end, there's police on mounted horses, and you know, just crossbars are getting snapped, turf's getting dug up all over the place. You know, you're thinking, this is just absolutely unbelievable. But you know what, no matter what anybody says, that was the result of 114 years of disappointment. You know, the only other team that will ever come close to experiencing what we experienced that day will be Dundee supporters. I think they've gone like 111 years or something now without winning it. You know, so the day they win it, they'll feel exactly the same way that we will. Hearts supporters, Rangers supporters, Celtic supporters, Aberdeen supporters, none of the St Johnstone supporters probably experienced it when they won it the first time around. The Inverness Cali supporters probably experienced it. But, you know, it was just to be there when it happened, you know, having had so many goes at it. How many Hibs supporters have been born, lived and died and didn't see Hibs win the Scottish Cup? You know? And to be there on the day that it finally happened, and to actually have the privilege of sort of being the first Hibs TV commentator to commentate on it, you know, that's, no one's ever going to take that away from me, you know. And it's one of these things that the full-time whistle went and you think, what do we do now? We've never done this before. We've never seen this before. What do we do? You know, and I think I said something like, it's been 114 years, now it's not even been 114 seconds, you know. And that was just it, you know. And thereafter, it was just no one behind us giving us abuse, chucking programmes at us, chucking pies at us, chucking whatever at us, was going to take away our enjoying that, you know. They could have jumped over and slung a punch at me, and you know, I'd have said to the boy, thanks, go and do it again, you know. Understandably, they were disappointed.
Hit me again, so I know it's real.
That's right, aye. We were absolutely euphoric about it, you know. And you know, just the way the game went, you know, the start, unbelievable, you know. Stokesy just so calm, so composed, strides into the box, scoops it past Wes Fotheringham. You think there's only a couple of minutes on the clock here, you know. We can't hold out for 88 minutes, surely, you know. And, you know, we were never going to try and hold out for 88 minutes. I don't think that was Alan Stubbs' style, was it? And we had a few chances, and then, of course, Rangers equalise. They had a chance, Kenny Miller, I think, hit the crossbar, and then he scored. And then after that, we had chance after chance. You know, Cummings had a couple of chances. Stokes had a couple of chances, brought a couple of good saves out the goalkeeper. Going at half-time, 1-1, you're thinking, you know, we're well in this. I had a good feeling from the very start. I just thought, this is our day. This team actually deserves to win something. You know, they were done in the playoffs against Falkirk. Absolutely done. You know, the game at Easter Road in particular, you know, the boy McCracken, you know, when he slid out, he practically took the ball with him, like, it's my ball, I'm going home with it, the game can just stop now. The referee, how he never saw that, you know, no idea. And you know, the game itself at the Falkirk Stadium, you know, the manner in which we lost that, you know, you thought, it's cruel. You know, this team deserves to win something for the season that they've given us. And then, of course, Andy Halliday, as we say, all credit to him, scored an absolute cracker. And you thought to yourself, here we go again. It's another Scottish Cup final, another tale of ifs, buts and maybes. But in fairness, we kept at it. And I thought going into the last quarter of an hour, I thought Rangers are looking very, very tired here. You know, they hadn't played many games up until then because, you know, they'd obviously qualified for the playoff, you know, the playoff final. And, you know, we've been playing games right up until that point. And I thought, they look dead on their feet here. Just keep going at them. And when Stokesy scored the second one, the equaliser, you know, you thought to yourself, we get this lot to extra time, we'll absolutely do them in extra time. The literally, when we equalised, you could see the Rangers players looking, thinking, we're struggling here. We're really struggling here. And then, of course, to win it in the manner that we did, you know, how many times has that happened to us? You know, last minute injury time, whatever, you lose a goal and it kills you. For us to score in the last minute injury time, you know, just, and again, you know, the atmosphere, you're never beating that, you know, just the roar from the Hibs support when David Gray's header hit the back of the net, you know, and just looking at it and all the players run towards the fans. James Keatings runs the other way, you know, the man that ran the wrong way kind of style. And, you know, just the way it all happened, it was almost, it was like 100 miles an hour. And, you know, trying to commentate on it and take it all in. Because remember, we're Hibs supporters as well. You know, we are unfortunately in a position where we can be sort of hugging our mates and all what have you, and singing and dancing and all what have you. And, you know, at that point in time, you just want to do that. You just want to let all your emotion out, you know. But see, when the full-time whistle went, boy, the emotion came out then. You know, that was just the release. And you saw it because the referee gave a free kick. Steve McLean gave a free kick, and we thought at the time he had given it to Rangers. I think everybody in the stadium thought he had given it to Rangers, and he gave it to Hibs. And I remember saying, he's given a free kick to Hibs. Unbelievable. All we need to do now is keep possession. We're right in the final seconds here at stoppage time. So we played the ball forward and we lost it, and it got played back into our half. But then all of a sudden, before you hear the whistle blowing, you see Liam Henderson turn towards the main stand and just run. He knew the referee was putting his whistle in his mouth, and he was off towards the main stand. And that was the first second that you knew, we've done it. And then the final whistle went, and it was just bedlam after that. Absolute bedlam. As I say, from that point, the final whistle to about 7 o'clock the following evening, I'm not sure I could tell you what happened, to be honest with you. You know, it was just like automatic pilot from there on in. You know, never, ever, ever will we experience a day like that at the football again. Never.
Nah, definitely not. It's kind of, it's like you've won football there, isn't it? It's like it's peaked at that point.
Yeah.
You can watch it till the end of the days and no repeat that feeling. What was so Colin and John, I'll bring you in a wee second. We've covered the cup final loads in the podcast before, but I'll bring you in a wee second. But I'm really curious, Cliff, to see if you talk us just from the start of your day, so what time did you get at Hampden? What was it like setting up and watching all the build-up, etc.?
We got to Hampden at around about 11 o'clock-ish, and up in the press lounge, just kind of having a chat with the lads, having a chat with some of the journos about how they thought Hibs might set up and stuff like that. And we're always fortunate at Hampden that they serve you a nice bit of lunch beforehand. If I recall rightly, it was a nice steak pie and tatties that they served up for us, so that was nice. After lunch, went up the stairs to the gantry around about 1 o'clock just to make sure everything was set up properly. It was a bit easier setting things up in those days because it was just us setting it up, and it was going through sports media. Season gone by there, it's all been a wee bit more complicated than that. I don't get involved in the setup of everything. Obviously, there's production teams and all that involved and stuff now that do all that. But got the stuff set up and just kind of stood up there. At that point in time, you just want to try and soak in the atmosphere as the fans are coming into the ground. See the players coming out on the pitch as they've arrived at the stadium. They're all in their suits and all what have you. Again, the thing that struck me was that the Hibs players looked really, really calm and really, really relaxed. And normally, cup finals, you've looked at them. I remember the game that we'll not mention against that lot that went against us.
Yeah.
But you saw the Hibs bus turning up, and the Hibs players on that particular day looked like rabbits in the headlights. They just looked absolutely terrified. And the players on the pitch on the 21st of May 2016, they just looked so calm, so relaxed. They were laughing, joking, they were taking photos of each other with their mobile phones and what have you. They actually looked like they were up for it, And I thought, well, if they can carry that into the game, we've got a right chance here, As I say, when Stokesy scores 2 or 3 minutes into the game, you're thinking, Jesus, is this going to be our day finally? Is this going to be the day where we break the hex? And then, as I say, it all turns around. You're 2-1 down when Halliday scores, and as Hibs supporters, sure everybody's thoughts were turning to, here we go again, so near yet so far. Hate this place, hate the Scottish Cup, we're never going to win it, And then Stokesy scores from the corner, Liam Henderson. Everyone remembers the one for David Gray. It's an absolute beauty that he put on Anthony Stokesy's head as well, And I remember when, obviously, Ian Crocker got the line about, it's Henderson to deliver. But I said at the time, Liam Henderson with another corner, if he can do the same with this one as he did with the last one, then who knows? And he did. He stuck it right on David Gray's head. And David Gray was never not getting to that ball. I think if you look at the replays, Andy Halliday had him like almost in a rugby tackle round his waist. But David Gray was like, you're going to have to hold on a lot tighter than that, son. Just broke free, got in there, boom, bullet header into the back of the net. Bedlam ensued, and it was just brilliant. There's no other word to describe it. It was absolutely brilliant. As a Hibs supporter, people ask you, what did it feel like? It's difficult to describe it.
Yeah.
It's difficult to describe it. I mean, I kind of described it as the second best day of my life, just in case my wife was listening, because my first day should have been my wedding day, but she knows fine well that was the best day of my life, and my wedding day was the second best day of my life, and she'd never take that away from me, so absolutely marvellous. Never experience it again. The contrast between that one and the one a couple of weeks ago was just like night and day, but that's football for you, sometimes you win them, sometimes you don't.
Sometimes without the lows, the highs, they feel so good as well. That's another thing to remember when you have a disappointment like that. If we hadn't had all the shite finals, that one in 2016 maybe wouldn't have been quite as special as it was.
Exactly, that's it. These they're character building, the defeats, aren't they? And they set you up for the day that it finally goes your way. And I think you look back to it, John mentioned there the League Cup final against Ross County. We should have done a St Johnstone that season. We should have won the League Cup and the Scottish Cup, but it wasn't to be. But you look back on it now, and somebody says to you, "Oh, you could have won the League Cup." Who cares about the League Cup? We won that one before. We wanted the big boy, and we got it. Nobody cares that we didn't win the League Cup that season. It would have been nice if we'd won them both, but hey, who cares? We won the Scottish Cup. That's all Hibs supporters wanted to see. everybody saying to you at the time, you know, what's more important, winning promotion or winning the Scottish Cup? I remember speaking to Stevie Cowan at Easter Road. What's more important, winning promotion or winning the Scottish Cup? Off winning the Scottish Cup, Stevie. Win promotion next season. You'll go for promotion again next season if we have to. Winning the Scottish Cup. They'll won it for 114 years. Seriously. Aye, seriously. You know, everybody, every Hibs supporter wanted to win the Scottish Cup. That was a holy grail for Hibs supporters, wasn't it? Everybody described it as the holy grail. Promotion? Nah, we didn't get promotion. We'll worry about that next season. This is our chance to win the Scottish Cup. And we did. Boom.
Colin, what was your memories of the day? Because I don't think we've ever talked to you about this on the podcast before. I know John and I have talked at length, but what was your day like?
My day, well, we went through early doors, and I think it was where Celtic used to train, like before they moved out to the fancy place. It was in a Celtic supporters club out there, and had a good few drinks. I just remember my wife being really emotional. She's a massive Hibs fan, and she was like crying half the day and walking out the club that day. There was an old boy she'd been talking to in the place, and it was like, he's only got months left. So I broke down then. Ken, you need to win it for him. You need to win it for him, and then you got in the place. It was just emotion all day. I fancied it all day, even at 2-1 down. And I still remember the old boy. I think you'd said a similar story, but the old boy behind, I hadn't spoke to him all day, but at the end of the game, he tapped her and my daughter on the shoulder, so you need to listen to him more often. So I was saying, calm the fuck down. Still plenty of time left in that, Ken, all day. But I mean, just, there's nothing, nothing other match it, will it? Nothing. It was,
I omitted to mention, so I was going to say, what I omitted to mention was before we actually went into Hampden, we decided to take a wee venture across to Cathkin Park, which is obviously just up behind the North Stand at Hampden. The old Hampden, as it was, where Hibs first won the Scottish Cup in 1887, when they beat Dumbarton. That was where they won it. And we thought, you know, let's go and take a wee wander around there. Let's just see if it's a wee good luck charm. And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, who knows. But, you know, we went there, we had a wee wander around the place, just kind of thinking back, God, probably looked better than this in 1887. Obviously, very, very run down at the time we went across. I think they've done a fair bit of work on it now to get it back up to a presentable standard. And sort of there is a third Lanark side playing there again now. But back in 1887, that's where we beat Dumbarton to win the Scottish Cup for the first time. So it might have been a good luck omen. It might not have been, but we took a wee stroll over there beforehand, and there you go.
I think you should take the credit for it. But third Lanark reforming should have been called fourth Lanark, surely. If you're going to do it, that's...
Second, third Lanark.
No, I was going to bring the tone back down a wee bit, but I was going to say, Cliff, I think you mentioned it in your commentary, but the boy Martin that used to commentate with you, he worked with a couple of my mates, and he died, a month before or something, didn't you? I think you mentioned it in the commentary, and that was another emotional sort of...
That was tragic. We were at Martin's funeral on the Monday before the game, and obviously Martin had been with Hibs TV for a long time, and you know, just tragic circumstances. And we did remember we mentioned at the end of the game Martin and all the other High B Angels up there. I'm sure they'll be enjoying this. You know, maybe Martin had something to do with it as well. You know, but sadly wasn't there to see it. But I'm sure with all the other departed, he probably saw it from above.
Lovely guy, Martin, as well. Sad loss.
Fabulous guy.
John, you obviously have your memento behind you for your Hampden trip.
Oh, you can't quite see it exactly, but I've got the shoes that I wore on the day. I've got my match ticket as well. I've got the shirt that I was wearing. It was the same shirt I think that we wore in the 2007 CIS Cup final. So it's a bit of a weird Hampden memento, but it's quite personal to me. But the other one that you can't see that's just out of shot is a seat from Hampden that got broken in the exuberance, and I just kind of helped it on its way and smuggled it out of Hampden on a Hibs flag.
We don't condone these kind of things, but it's nice you've got it framed now up on your wall.
The statute of limitations for criminal damage to plastic seats, I think, is long past.
You just see you found it, you'll be all right. Did you have any mementos from it, Cliff? Anything unusual that you took to commemorate the day, aside from a Scottish Cup?
Just a team sheet, the programme that I managed to get signed by David Gray and Anthony Stokes. That's it.
That'll be worth a few bob. I got programmes on the way out at normal price at a fiver. I've seen they're up to about, I don't know, I think it was at 40, 50 quid. I've seen somebody saying on.
They're some ridiculous price. And same with the
Stupid
Nike shirt as well that the team wore that season. You cannot get that for love nor money now. You know, if Nike were to do another run of that one, you know, as a retro shirt, I'm pretty sure they'd make a fair few quid out of it. There's a lot of Hibs supporters, I'm sure, would have liked to have had that shirt, the bottle green one with the white sleeves, but the club store sold out, never got it back in again, and that was that. You know, you could imagine everybody would be buying it and getting it embroidered with William Hill Scottish Cup final, 21st of May 2016, you know, but maybe they'll do it someday, you never know.
The club shop would have been a fortune to me if they hadn't their stuff like that. I was looking for the tie set and all that. They just said, the players went away and got that sorted themselves. And they never made a, you know, you could, after the 2007 one, you could buy the cufflinks and tie commemorative set and that. I was going to chuck money at them. And there was just nothing there.
Liam Fontaine picked this the ties, John, didn't he? He mentioned
that's
that.
Right,
I think we tried to tap him up for one, but you got nowhere.
You wouldn't even tell me where he got them from. He says he couldn't remember.
Marks and Spencer's one, sure it is.
George at Asda. There we go. Sorted. Right, that's us pretty much out of time. Cliff, that's been absolutely fantastic having you on. Really, really good episode. Listening to talk to your top five.
I've enjoyed it. Thanks.
Can I ask a quick question? Do you only commentate on Hibs games? Do you ever get any subcontracting work out for anything else? Eurosport or anything like that?
I've been offered the opportunity to commentate on other games, but I've never done it. You know, a quick story. You all know Luke Shanley.
Yeah.
Luke obviously started off with Hibs TV covering reserve games for us. You know, I got Luke involved in Hibs TV. He started off covering reserve games, and you see where Luke's got to now. You know, Luke is at the time was a young guy, single guy. You know, that was what he wanted to get into. I got into this almost by accident, and you know, I think back and I think, you know, this, you know, being 20 years younger at the time, who knows, might have looked at it as a career, but I've got a full-time job that I enjoy. It's, you know, suits me. The people I work with are very, very good. They know what I do in my spare time, and if I need time off, they're always willing to accommodate it and stuff like that. But, you know, I'm not sure I fancy commentating on other games, to be honest with you. You know, I'm a Hibs supporter. You know, I love commentating on the Hibs games. You know, one of the things that we always try to do is be biased to an extent, but not to the extent where we go over the top. You know, if the opposition score a good goal, you've got to give them credit for it. You know, and particularly last season there when we were doing pay-per-view, I think that's pretty important. You know, you've got opposition fans listening as well. You know, they get the wind that, you know, the Hibs guys are biased, but I'll not name names of other commentary teams. Yeah. You'll know them off the top of your head. You probably listen to some. You know.
Clive Tilsley.
You know, they play against Hibs. Hibs can do no right. You know, every time a Hibs player tackles the ball, it's a foul. You know, if we score a goal, it was 10 yards offside. You know, there's bias and there's bias. You know, and at the end of the day, from our point of view, as I said earlier, you guys can see the games. You know, we're not going to dress it up to be something it isn't. If the opposition score a good goal, give them credit for it. You know, that's what football's about. You know, sometimes you win games, sometimes you lose them. And if the opposition score a cracking goal to win the game, all credit to them. You know, let's not take it away from them. You know, so, you know, I think from our point of view, you know, we see comments on, you know, other fans' websites from other teams, and they're usually pretty complimentary towards the Hibs guys. You know, whether it's myself and Tam or Dave and Tam. You know, for the fact that you can tell we're Hibs supporters, but we don't go over the top, and people seem to like that. So it's the way we've always been. So, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely.
Although some people would tell us it is broken, we should fix it.
But it doesn't matter what you do. That's what we've been finding out over the last while.
Yeah, you know the score, Matt. You can't please all the people all of the time. You know, at the end of the day, there will be people that like the way you do things. There will be people that don't. You know, I have the style I do things in. You know, I'm not going to change it. I'm too long in the tooth to do that now, you know. But, you know, most people seem to have enjoyed the coverage. You know, I mean, I know there's been a few issues at times with sound and stuff like that, but, you know, that'll be worked on, and hopefully not as many people will need to watch us next season, but I think, you know, there may be maybe some people will still need to watch us initially, but fingers crossed, you know, by the middle of the season, we've got everybody back in the stadium, because as I said at the start, football without fans in the ground, it's not right.
It's not the same. I hope they're back soon enough. Right, Colin, you got any more questions before I go into wrapping up again?
I'm going to let you wrap up.
You sure? I care what's going to happen. I'm going to get halfway through this and you're going to say, or John's eyes are lighting up now as well. He's like, yes, here we go. Right, thanks for listening. We'll be back on Thursday with Short Bangers, so get your questions in there. And then we'll be back next week, I think, with Dave for the Hibs TV commentary, coming on to give us his top 5 as well. In the meantime, enjoy your week with no football. That's a nightmare, isn't it? Right,
until Friday.
Until Friday, yes. On Scotland. Do they play on Friday?
No, it's Turkey, Italy on Friday night.
That was the game I was hoping to see as well. Turkey,
we're all working for home.
Turkey, Italy.
We're all working for home for Scotland's first game, so we're all right.
I think it started that. That's a whole other conversation, isn't it, about how you can set up to watch the football. Right, that's us done. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee.